Now at 11. For 25 years, she was known as Jane Doe. Just a body found in the woods. Tonight, see the break that finally cracked this case and gave a daughter some closure.
I don't need to know the details. I just know he took her life.
Plus, how do you teach children about the devastation of 9/11?
Getting them to think about how the present has been shaped by that event.
We ask local teachers how they handle the subject in school. And Idaho hospitals are now rationing emergency care as COVID cases surge. We take a look if that could happen in Oregon. Good evening, I'm Laurel Porter. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with that break in a 25-year-old Oregon cold case. It took new DNA technology and a documentary to solve it. As Mike Benner reports, a woman hundreds of miles away now has a sense of peace.
I have good days and bad days, and some days I do okay, and other days I cry all day.
Just shy of her 47th birthday, Candace Thomas has gone through more than most people do in a lifetime. Candace was born in Southern Oregon, then quickly moved to Oklahoma, where her mother, Kathy, lost custody of her.
I love my adopted family, and great family, but when you're adopted, you always feel like something's missing. So you do spend your entire life searching, and that's literally what I've done.
As Candace searched for her biological mother, authorities back in Oregon were embarking on what would turn out to be a years-long mystery.
It's probably more frustrating than most cases.
Polk County Sheriff's Detective John Williams says it all started in September 1996. A father and son out bird hunting stumbled across a woman's remains in the hills above the Mill Creek area in rural Polk County.
In our minds, from the get-go, this is a homicide because she didn't wrap herself up in a tarp and tie her up. So she was killed. We don't quite know how because it's just bones.
Through sketches, CT scans, 3D imaging, and sculptures, authorities spent years trying to identify the woman, but to no avail. The case went cold until 2019.
They actually found the skull a couple hundred feet that way.
Crime show host Yolanda McClary, who happens to be a retired Las Vegas Metro PD investigator, offered to produce a special documentary on the case. The show that aired on the Oxygen Network followed McClary and genealogists as they used a DNA profile developed from the remains to come up with a positive ID, Kathy Thomas.
I mean, there's nothing to top it. This is kind of the dream case, I guess.
A dream case partly because it led authorities to Oklahoma, where Candace Thomas had been desperately searching for her biological mother, Kathy. Candace will never forget that phone call from investigators in Oregon.
I know my mom wasn't perfect. I know that she had her fair share of issues like everybody else. She didn't deserve that.
She didn't deserve a violent death, as detectives describe it. But who was to blame? Authorities say this guy's the killer, Brian Clifton, the man Kathy married after losing her children in Oklahoma and moving back to Oregon. Investigators believe Brian took Kathy's life in order to be with another woman. Brian was indicted and arrested last month.
I don't wish anything bad for him, but I also don't want him back on the street.
After so many years in the dark, Candace now knows all about her long-lost biological mother, Kathy. It's not the ending Candace had hoped for, but at least it's something.
All this is helped alleviate the inner battle within me.
What a story. If Brian is ultimately convicted of killing Kathy, it'll be the second time he's been convicted of such a crime. Back in the 70s, he was convicted of killing a motel clerk in the Portland area during a botched robbery. He was sentenced to prison, but paroled less than a decade later, a short time before meeting Kathy. I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
Today, President Biden announced a new strategy aimed at reducing COVID cases by increasing the number of people who are vaccinated and pushing for more testing. The president signed 2 executive orders calling for employers with 100 or more workers to require vaccines or weekly testing. He's also now requiring vaccines for the vast majority of federal workers and contractors. The White House plan also calls for booster shots to be available September 20th.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you. If you want to work with the federal government and do business with us, get vaccinated.
We reached out to the city of Portland, Multnomah County offices, and the Oregon Health Authority, but none is prepared to comment yet on how the president's mandate will play out locally. And in Washington state today, Governor Jay Inslee announced everyone will soon be required to wear face coverings at large outdoor events. Washington health officials say it comes after 5 outdoor events in the state became super spreaders. The governor's order will begin Monday for crowds of 500 people or more. It applies whether you're vaccinated or not. Same goes for the indoor mask mandate that went into effect last month. Now to an update on the infant who recently died from COVID in Oregon. We now know the child, who was less than a year old, had underlying health conditions. The state's senior health advisor addressed the tragic death today.
As a parent, I can say that is very sad. No parent should ever have to bury their child. I feel for those parents. My heart aches for those parents, and I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
As we all are, and this is the 3rd child, younger than 9, to die with COVID in Oregon. The Oregon Health Authority also says it's seeing a rise in pediatric cases. Symptoms in babies and young kids present the same as in adults. They include fever, fatigue, general weakness, and respiratory issues. The COVID outbreak in northern Idaho has doctors in true crisis mode to care for as many people as possible. But we found out here in Oregon, guidance for a hospital crisis plan looks a lot different. As Catherine Cook reports, that's a big concern to some healthcare workers.
With COVID cases surging in Idaho's panhandle and hospitals there exceeding capacity, the state of Idaho just activated its crisis standards of care. That means care is not guaranteed for everyone. Instead, doctors are advised to treat patients who are most likely to survive, not those whose conditions are most critical. The goal there is saving as many lives as possible while space is limited. But in Oregon, such crisis care standards no longer exist.
A pandemic is the time when you absolutely need crisis standards of care in place. And so for us not to have them right now is really troubling.
Becky Hultberg is president and CEO of the Oregon Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. She says having a crisis standards document is important for healthcare workers in Oregon and patients. She believes everyone should understand how care will always be delivered when resources can no longer meet demand.
But we're not having to allocate a scarce resource like a ventilator at this point. But having the guidance in place gives clinicians the path forward to making these really tough decisions.
Oregon had a crisis standards of care document with that guidance in 2018. But last year, the state said that document was discriminatory. In December, the Oregon Health Authority replaced the crisis standards document with a set of 4 crisis care principles, which they developed with community input. Those principles are non-discrimination, health equity, patient-led decision-making, and transparent communications. In a statement to KGW, the Oregon Health Authority said in part, hospitals can implement crisis care standards on their own, and triage decisions are just one step Oregon empowers hospitals to take to respond to a public health crisis. They can suspend elective procedures, alter staffing, and take other steps that can help prevent hospitals from reaching a point where they are forced to ration care. They do not need to rely on a declaration from state health officials. While Hultberg agrees the 2018 guidance needed revision, she believes the state still needs actual crisis care standards for now and in the future.
We have to be prepared for our hospitals to respond if we see another surge or if we see an earthquake or some other kind of natural disaster.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
A robbery victim is speaking out tonight after she says 2 men robbed her and her boyfriend along a popular trail in Tigard. Margot Meehan says she was walking home after dinner Tuesday night. This happened on the Fano Creek Trail. They were near Southwest Johnston and Grant Avenue. That's when 2 men got out of a truck and robbed them.
And I just kind of freeze. So they drag everything off of me, like my purse, my lanyard. At some point, my glasses got torn off of my face as well. and my boyfriend like was trying to like fight with them. A witness was trying to help. It was just pure chaos, and I don't think it lasted more than like 2 minutes.
How frightening. Miam says that witness who tried to help them said another robbery happened in the same area about a month and a half ago, but it's not known if the two are related. Police say the robbers drove away in a navy blue Ford F-150 or F-250 with tinted windows and possibly a canopy. If you have any information on the case, call Tigard Police. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office is asking for your help catching this man. They say he pretended to help a woman in a mobility scooter before stealing her purse. This all happened yesterday about 10 p.m. at the Fuller Mac station in Happy Valley. The victim says the scooter had a low battery and the suspect offered to push her into the station. Surveillance video shows the man pull the purse off the back of a scooter, then watch this, stuff it into a garbage can, then come back later to pick up the purse. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office tip line. A Clark County man will spend 20 years in prison for the 2019 hate crime murder of a transgender teenager. Today, a judge sentenced David Bogdanoff to the maximum sentence for killing 17-year-old Nikki Kuhnhausen. Kuhnhausen's mother addressed the court.
David has taken so much from all of us. And I'm sure the defense is going to ask for compassion. But I ask you, how much compassion did he have for my beautiful baby girl? I beg of you that the court give him the maximum penalty for the crimes he's been found guilty by a jury of his peers.
A jury found Bogdanoff guilty of second-degree murder and malicious harassment, which is a hate crime in Washington. The 27-year-old met Kuhnhausen on a dating app. The two were having sexual contact in the back seat of Bogdanoff's car when he found out she was transgender. Bogdanoff strangled Kuhnhausen with a cell phone charger. He claimed the killing was self-defense. The judge gave Bogdanoff an opportunity to address Kuhnhausen's family, but he declined. His attorney says he'll appeal the conviction.